So I wanted to make a video about some of the nonsense I've been hearing online and a few people who are just saying crazy things. Now some people are being a little more realistic and saying, well, what would you do if a riot came to town or something like that? Something somewhat realistic. But I still think it's a bit far-fetched. Anyhow, another guy was basically trying to fan the flame, seemingly a high-profile channel, saying, well, there's not going to be a civil war because we're just going to flat out whip the other side's ass. And saying we're the lions on the block, so to speak. A bunch of crap, really. But anyways, I think besides some of these people's unrealistic tendencies, I have a little bit to say about it. It reminds me a bit of a fight that I saw in the UFC going back some years, and it was Mirko Cro Cop and Gabriel Gonzaga too. And you can find that online with Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub all commenting on the fight. Now, Brendan Schaub had fought Cro Cop and Gonzaga, so he knows both of those fighters well. He said that Cro Cop was the strongest fighter that he's basically ever locked up with. He said even more so than Shane Carwin. He said trying to move Cro Cop was just like trying to move the Thing from the Fantastic Four. And he said it was like Cro Cop was made of straight rocks. And somewhere along the fight, don't know if it was about the third round, Gonzaga tried to go for some double legs and pushed Cro Cop against the cage. So Gonzaga tries to start getting a double leg against Cro Cop, and Schaub says out loud, he says, Cro Cop against the cage just is not happening, dude. He said, save your energy. And he said his camp's strategy was to take Cro Cop down in the open, not against the cage. He said the cage was a losing battle. And just as he started to say more about this, Gonzaga kept trying to go for a double leg. Eventually, Cro Cop landed 2 shots, rocked Gonzaga. Gonzaga went back again for another takedown in desperation, and Cro Cop got double underhooks, basically took him down and pounded him out with elbows. A real major turnaround. But it was interesting that it happened just as Schaub was saying, don't go for this cage strategy, you're playing right into his game, you know? And to me that reminds me of trying to defend your home. I feel like defending your home is kind of like that scenario where Cro Cop was up against the cage. You know all the stuff in your house. You basically know all the strong points, all the weak points. I mean, like me, for instance, I know I've lived in this home for a number of years now, and I pretty much know where every part of where the shadows are the darkest versus where it's the lightest, all the parts that would make me a small target and make the other person a big target if I ever had to get into a situation. And you're just at a significant advantage. Trying to invade and pull someone out of their own home and take over is really a real bad way to spend your energy. So the opposite of that is being caught out in the open. Now, I know there's some people who say, well, if I'm out in the open, I conceal carry, so I'm going to have an advantage there. Also, you can go with body armor, I guess, if you can afford it. You can go with like the same type of level that the cops use and be a little bit less conspicuous. However, there's not much strategy that is legally allowed when you're out in public. You can't just walk around with your concealed carry weapon unconcealed and just pointing it at people. You can't do that. You know, it's like you can't draw from the drop either. That's a common gun strategy. You never draw from the drop. So with the idea that many people in public who are looking to commit something illegal are probably going to draw on you first, and probably without you even knowing you're being drawn on. You know, you could be sitting in the line at the grocery store and all of a sudden you get shot in the back. Something could be a drive-by shooting, you never know. So a lot of these so-called untrained thugs that a lot of people feel they can easily outgun, these people aren't going to use the same strategy as you. They're basically going to just do whatever they do, whatever they're familiar with. And if you look at how some of these people respond in certain crime-ridden areas, they basically just drive-by shooting. They just conduct drive-by shootings. That's how they take their enemies out. And if you look at what happened to those 2 cops in LA, and there's a lot of other circumstances out there that show the same deal, it amounts to terrorism. And terrorists do not care about taking out the easiest target and whoever they can get randomly. Some people aren't even really terrorists. They're just lunatics looking for someone to hurt. So I really don't understand what kind of strategy some of these people intend to impose, or implement, I should say, when it comes to dealing with things out in the open, out in public, when you can't strategize. And it's hard for me to believe why some people want to get into a civil war type scenario or mass civil unrest, because it's going to make it a lot more random than these people had initially intended it to be. So, just my 2 cents. I think it's craziness. I think you're getting yourself into something really crappy, and I think people who don't even want to be involved will actually be involved. Personally, I don't really believe our country's going to head towards civil war. I think maybe we have bigger issues on the horizon, but we'll see how it all works out. Peace.